What's up, everyone? Welcome once again to the Slam Sessions right here on YouTube. Uh, as always, I'm your host, Albert Albanese. And kind of a little bit impromptu, but there's been a couple of things on my mind that I figure may as well come on here and talk to you guys about. So here I am. Hope everyone out there is doing well. And yeah, we'll wait till we get a couple people in here to start kind of going over some things. A lot of things going on in the pro wrestling world right now. A lot of things that I think a lot of people have been talking about, things that have been going on in AEW, some stuff that has been going on in WWE. And of course, if you guys are the internet wrestling fans and you're of that internet wrestling fandom, I think there's a lot of interesting things going on as it pertains to the way people are talking about pro wrestling at this time. Um, it is Thursday. I know it's later than what I usually do. So if I don't get many people on here, I won't be on too long. And, you know, you guys know the drill. But, we have Saturday is the King, Kaido. What's up, man? How are you, man? Saturday we have Crown Jewel. We're heating up for AEW Full Gear, which unfortunately for me, I don't know if I mentioned this on this stream. I actually had tickets to Full Gear, um, and it just so happens that I am in a play, and it is the exact same day and time as Full Gear. So I had to kind of give my ticket up. And I'm unfortunately not able to go, which really sucks because I was looking forward to it. It's the first AEW pay-per-view I would have attended. The only AEW show that I've gone to so far has been the AEW makeup show that was supposed to be the original Blood and Guts before that got canceled in Newark, and it's now and then I went to the makeup show. It was just the normal standard Dynamite, which, I mean, it was what it was. A lot of people were happy about the fact that they got tickets to the show, the first Grand Slam show right after that. I didn't. It was just a normal ass Dynamite that I got. Got Adam Cole's AEW debut. Something that I guess I can, kind of cool that I was a part of. MD. Oh, dude. Oh my God. Oh man. Look, we'll take there's only two people in the chat right now, so we'll take a brief foray into football really quick. I don't know if you guys know this, but I had my own football show for a couple of years with my buddy Avi Schiffman. Degenerate, what's going on, buddy? Look, I wasn't optimistic about this season with the Jets anyway. I just wasn't. I thought this was going to be a rebuilding year. I was pretty sure that Zach Wilson wasn't going to find his mojo until midseason, which still could happen. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I didn't expect Breece Hall to be that good. I didn't expect them to have this. I mean, I thought they were going to have a good defense. I didn't think they would have like this amazing defense. But man, it just seems like the Patriots have the Jets number, and it just seems like Belichick knows how to game plan for them and knows how to beat them. A lot of bad officiating in that game. That touchdown that got called back, the interception, it deflated the entire stadium, and we never recovered. And it's a shame. It really is. It really is. I want the Patriots and Tom Brady to suck. I mean, listen, I'm always rooting against the Patriots and Tom Brady, and unfortunately, Tom Brady is having a horrible season this year, so I'm very happy about that at least. But yeah. So let's start talking a little bit more about some stuff that's going on. What do you guys want to talk about as it pertains to wrestling? There's a couple of things I did want to cover. Namely, first and foremost, I think that one of the things that we've touched on during a couple of streams, we haven't gotten, I think, the full extent, especially now that it seems like things are over and decisions have been made, but the CM Punk situation is seemingly coming to a head. The WWE they're in a very bad state. True, Sinister, what's going on, buddy? The WWE is in a bad place right now because they have Roman and the Usos taking over the entire division. I think it's hard to book a tag division when the Usos are pretty much going to win in every match that they're in. So I think it's a difficult situation for them to be in. I think that post Crown Jewel, I think we might start seeing the division being booked a little bit better. Look, there's been a lot of things that you can say about the way WWE is rolling right now. This whole Sami Zayn thing wasn't supposed to happen for this long. This was supposed to be a couple of weeks. He was going to get kicked out, and that was going to be the end. But because he got over, they're extending things. So I think it's been harder for them to kind of book everything because I think they had an idea and they were like, "Nah, we got to kind of chill and roll with what we have right now." And it's not a bad thing. Sammy's the most entertaining person on the planet, and he's killing it in this role right now. But yeah, so let's see. I thought for years that the tag team division was the New Day and the Usos, especially as AEW has been around. I mean, it kind of was, and I think Triple H is trying to do his best to kind of get themselves, they're trying to get themselves back into to prominence, so where they used to be. I mean, Triple H is rehired Hit Row, whatever way you feel about them. It's still another tag team in the division. They brought up Legado del Fantasma. The Brawling Brutes have been kind of getting over ever since Sheamus and Gunther, and yet we have they brought Giovanni Vinci back up to the main roster to put him with Marcel Bartel, the Reform Imperium, as a tag team. So they're did I not say Brawling Brutes? I might have said. Did I say Battling Brutes? What? I don't know what the hell I even said, but yeah. But yeah, they're all we've got a bunch of new teams that are kind of coming into the mix, but I think that they've got to find their way a little bit first in order to get back into where they were. It's a difficult situation when like Kaido said, it's hard to do that when the bloodline is running everything. And I think that, eventually True Sinister, I believe it might have been. It might have been. They could have been the last guys to defend it, but they're defending against them at Crown Jewel. But look, it's gonna. This actually bleeds into something that I wanted to talk about anyway. So I guess we can kind of go into this. What do you guys think about WWE right now? I mean, it's been 3 months since Triple H took over. What are your opinions on it? Because I've been seeing. Thanks, Big Blue. Appreciate that. I've been seeing a lot of people already saying that after last week's Raw, they were like, "Oh, here we go. WWE just back to its old ways. That Raw was a chore to get through. I don't like what they're doing now. Here we are. Is it okay now that we criticize Triple H? Like, of course, better, not as good as they could be. Look, MD, I think that at the end of the day, I think that's going to be what we can say about everything because our opinions are going to be, are going to differ. There are shows that I'm going to like that you aren't, and vice versa. So nothing is ever going to be perfect. And in a perfect world, even during the Attitude Era, when we were getting the highest ratings in the world, the shows weren't perfect. They were just entertaining enough to get through. Let's see. Kaido, you said, I believe Raw is back to being slightly more boring, but SmackDown is still grand. Okay, it's not perfect. It never will be, but even the Attitude Era wasn't gold. True Sinister, great minds think alike. I said the exact same thing, and Raw wasn't that bad. I think they're doing just fine. See, okay, so that's what I'm saying. I think so too. And I know that I have a good corner of the internet here that, that I come to talk to, and you guys are, for the most part, you guys are very smart about, a lot when it comes to wrestling. You aren't harsh on the product as much as other people are. I think it's hysterical that after one pretty bad Raw, we've got everybody, I've seen like 7 or 8, big Twitter accounts like, is this the end of the honeymoon period for Triple H? He's been there for 3 months, and look, Raw's not that great. I think it's time that we start telling him he's doing bad. Meanwhile, I found it to be very ironic that anytime anybody criticized AEW in the first year, everybody kept saying, oh, they're so new. They've only been around for 1 year. You have to give them time. They're just trying to develop. Triple H got into this role. Inigo Montoya, how are you, my friend? Triple H got into this role after coming back from heart surgery. He had like 2 weeks where he was just the VP of Talent Relations. And then all of a sudden, he's the head of creative. He's been the head of creative out of all WWE. Remember, this isn't just like AEW where it's, okay, we have Dynamite and we have Yeah, forced into this role that I know is exactly. But you have Dynamite, you have Rampage, and then you have the lesser shows. Triple H is in charge of two major, I mean, a network cable television show, a basic a basic television show that everyone in the world has access to, and another network television show in NXT. Like, it's a lot to deal with. And he's resetting NXT, and he's, doing things with Raw and SmackDown that a lot of people are liking. But of course, it's not perfect, and he hasn't gotten all the way there yet. But I find it to be funny that people are very, very eager to judge Triple H and start telling him about how bad of a job he's doing when he's only been there for 3 months. Base up, what's up, buddy? No, if he didn't, it wasn't enough. I think that the reason why Zach Wilson didn't play well this past week was because Brady and Giselle announced their divorce, and Zach Wilson has his thing for MILFs, and he was trying to swoop in. That's what I think. But we'll see what happens in the future. But yeah, I find it to be completely hypocritical that you had all these AEW fans. Now remember, AEW wasn't even a year old, and people started talking about things they might not have liked, and AEW fans got so defensive. This was less than a year old. Now, here we are 3 years in, and people are starting to talk about things that they might not like about Dynamite, and people are still like, well, they're still a new company. Nah, they're not new anymore, guys. This isn't a new company. This isn't like, they were around for a year or two. We are 3 years deep into AEW. If you don't like what you're seeing, you are more than right to critique and criticize. I don't like people who flat out say, this sucks. I can go on a whole rant about someone who recently, just said, oh, this sucks. That's not constructive. That doesn't help anything. And people are going to get pissed at you when you continually say stupid shit like that. That's what's going to end up happening. Saying things suck it's not an answer, and it's not a helping hand to anybody in the company at that time. Tony Khan can't change, well, this sucks. Why does it suck? Well, I can't give you an answer. I just don't like it. Okay, then go F yourself in your opinion, because Tony Khan's going to keep doing what he's going to do. Triple H too. You suck, or this sucks isn't a critique. It's not criticism. At the end of the day, I think that what we don't understand is that, or maybe we, some of us understand because we're smart enough, but I think what a lot of the internet doesn't understand is that it's very hard to book 52 weekly television shows a year. Now, compounded on that, Triple H has double that because he's doing Raw and SmackDown. And if you really want to get technical, triple that because he's technically head of creative. So I'm sure that means that he's overseeing NXT as well. He made the change to go from 2.0 back to the, black and gold. And if that's going to be, the way they're angling NXT, that means Triple H has got his hands in there too. It's very, very hard to book that much TV. Albert, if you were Spider-Man, which city would you choose as your home, but not New York because the OG Spider-Man has it? All right, so this is going to be a very weird, this is a very off-brand question. I'm going to answer it real quick. My best friend Tom just got back from a long cross-country trip. He drove from LA back to New York. His brother lived out there. He drove him back. And he stopped by Colorado when he was showing me pictures and videos of Colorado. I think I'd do that. Just, sit at the top, chill on a mountain, oversee everything, swing in when I have the chance. Colorado seems pretty beautiful. AEW is definitely not great yesterday. So, Kaido, I haven't seen the show in and of itself. I do have to say, I love that Colt Cabana was Jericho's opponent. Just throwing that out there. I know a lot of people might not agree with me. I thought that was a fantastic thing that AEW did. I think it was a good touch. Exactly. People need to explain why they don't like what they see on TV instead of saying it sucks. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is the stupidest critique ever. Or, oh God, no. Or, like that's absolutely stupid. Like, come up with something. If you don't like something, look, hey, Inigo, it's snowing over there already? Damn, dude. All right. You know what? Maybe Colorado's not the right place for me because I don't like the cold. You know what? Maybe I might switch to Florida. Although that's like hell's waiting room. I don't know. It's a hard choice. Maybe I'll just go to LA. You know what? Weather's pretty normal. People are strange. A lot of famous people that I can break up crimes with. Might go that route. Seattle, nah, it rains too much. Way too much. Sorry, my girlfriend just texted me. I haven't been. She's got a full time gig right now as a teacher, so we've been not. We haven't been seeing much of each other lately. So I'll get back to her in a little bit. Sorry, I sidetracked myself there. I am a New Yorker, and all right. So MD, here's the deal. I never liked the cold. I was born in the summer. I was always a summer, a summer baby. I enjoyed. I enjoy the summer. I enjoy being outdoors, and I don't like. I'd rather sweat than freeze. So, and especially now, look, I'm gonna be honest. A couple of months ago, I turned 37, and it's been all downhill since about like 34, 35. I get cold now in a second. I have my friggin' heater on in my apartment right now, like an old man. It's like 60 something degrees in New York right now, and I have my heat on. I've become an old man. I think that my body just doesn't like the weather. No, New York gets close to the hundreds at times in the heat of summer. New York summers can get hot. And based up, I plead the fifth on that. um, due to my employment and such, I cannot confirm that is something that I would partake in. But rest assured, if I lived in Colorado and it was, legal for me to do my work and partake in something like that, I probably would. So we'll leave it at that. But yeah, so we kind of got sidetracked with some of this stuff. So that's my thing. Look, at the end of the day, this is a tough job to have, and I think that we don't give Triple H, and even look, even me sometimes I get a little bit onto Tony Khan a little bit, but it's not even um based up, you guys might not snitch on me, but if somebody from my job decided to pop onto this and go, "Hey, I wonder what Albert talks about on his YouTube stream," and he talks, I'm talking about smoking weed, I probably get drug tested the next day. So I would rather not have to go through any of that and just have plausible deniability. So, but yes, look, but I will say I am very supportive of the legalization of marijuana. I think it's ridiculous that, yeah, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that people think it's a gateway drug and stuff like that. I think it's fantastic. By the way, 3 likes. Thank you guys for that. I appreciate it. Maybe this should be a tweet, but this Warner merger is just as bad as the one on. So true answer, it's nowhere near as bad because they want AEW and they want AEW programming on their station. If this was as bad as it was 20 years ago, then that means that they would have canceled everything that AEW was on, and then they wouldn't have a home. Is it the best thing in the world outside of pro wrestling? Probably not. But inside the realm of pro wrestling, it's a good thing that this merger seems to want to support AEW and keep them on the air. Look, people may not be fans of AEW. People may not. Oh, degenerate, you're back. You just didn't want to hear me talk about football. I get you. But yeah, so there are a lot of people who want to, who don't like certain, shows, and that's fine. If that's not for you, if you're not, I don't want to put this. If you're not a fan of a certain show, that's fine. I don't want to see it go away, though. Um, no, I came to tell you that the NFC East is actually leading. Listen, I can't believe that the Giants and the Eagles are as good as they are. I'm absolutely shocked that both of those teams are as good as they are, and good on them both. Both very passionate fan bases, both very good football cities. It's nice to know that the Jets are going into their bye right now, and there is no chance of them going into their bye under 500, and that's a cool thing as a Jets fan for me right now. So MD, here's the thing. I don't think Flash, regardless, Big Blue Attack, that's awesome. I hope you had a blast. I haven't been to a game in a couple of years. I don't think the Flash would have lasted. I was a very, very big fan of the whole Arrowverse. I loved Arrow. I loved the Flash. I watched the first few seasons of the Flash. I fell off, man. It just got to be too much of a chore at times. After the crossovers and everything like that, it just got to be too much. And then I was like, you know what? I can't keep up with it anymore. I don't think it would have survived regardless, whether or not they took over. I think it was time to end it, though. I think it's 9 seasons. It's a long run for a show, and even a superhero show. What I do hope is that DC takes a look at that show and realizes that Grant Gustin is an excellent Flash, and they cast him in something in the future. I don't know if I said it on Dave's, but my company has lost the facility I'm currently at. Yeah, to the end of the month. I don't know where I'll be at. True Stannis, listen, I've been through something similar. I'll put it to you this way: everything happens for a reason. If you can't be there, that means you're probably not supposed to. And you should be you shouldn't worry too much. Just keep on your toes and do your due diligence and work your ass off to try to find something that'll better you and your life, and you'll be okay. Oh, MD, believe me, I'm 100% behind that. If Ezra Miller just can go away and they can just reshoot the entire thing with Grant Gustin, I would be ecstatic. I love Grant Gustin. All right, we took a really big floor. It's the first time I think in a long time, maybe ever, we've taken this big of a break from talking about wrestling to talk about other things. It's cool that that you guys share. We all share other similar interests outside of pro wrestling. But I do want to ask because this is something that actually I had something written down. Let's see. So this kind of goes into what I was talking about before with the whole booking situation. I don't know if you guys remember, and I know some of you guys aren't on Twitter. I know some of you guys are because I see you guys commenting and stuff. There was a big deal going on when Big Blue, absolutely huge news. Great for the WWE to lend Nakamura to Noah for Muda's retirement tour. Anything with the Great Muda involved, I'm down for. I grew up watching Muda and Liger in WCW. And then, they were my introduction to Japanese wrestling. And Great Muda is one of those guys that's on my list of favorite wrestlers that a lot of people don't realize. I'm a huge fan of him, and I'm really happy to see WWE lending their talent to his retirement tour. I'm sure that he personally requested Nakamura, and that's why WWE let him do it. And Triple H is great with he's going to be good with doing stuff like this and working with other people. A lot of the CW verse reprised their roles in the film. Oh, MD, I completely agree. 110% agree. I hope that they do a Crisis on Infinite Earths and do something with all of them. I hope the AEW fans who have criticized Triple H only doing returns with the same energy about Jeff Jarrett return. Here's the thing. This whole thing about the returns is a good thing to get on because I wanted to get into this too. Okay, so we're talking about returns. We're talking about debuts. AEW did that with debuts, and now AEW fans are saying, "Well, now that's all Triple H is doing. He's only doing returns." Degenerate, you're not wrong. And now AEW is having their own debuts / returns on their shows. Look, wrestling is cyclical. This is going to happen. I don't think that either company should just look. I was mad that that AEW kept hiring ex-WWE guys and they were usurping their home-built talent on their roster. I didn't like that. I like the idea that this was this young company with young talent, and it was the same thing as Impact. When TNA first started, I was a huge fan of MD, you're 100% right. But I was a huge fan of the younger guys that TNA had hired in the infancy, like the AJ Styles, low key. I know he was Ring of Honor, for a while, so there he was bouncing back and forth. But Styles, low key, Daniels, the X Division, Petey Williams, Frankie Kazarian, Chris Sabin. Alex Shelley. I got really into those guys. Bobby Roode. Those were guys that I really started to dig in AEW and TNA. And then, slowly but surely, these WWE guys started coming over and overtaking them in TNA. And I started getting pissed because I was like, yo, let my guys get the shot. That's who deserve it. And I feel the same way about AEW. AEW started with this, mentality of being these young guys, and I was all about it. MJF is my guy. Adam Hangman Page is my guy. These are guys that I wanted to see succeed, and it took Hangman, who was supposed to be like in the main event and have, face Pac for the first ever world championship. It was going to be either one of the two of them. It took both of those guys 3 years to win their first singles titles in AEW. AEW, heavyweight champion Adam Hangman Page, and the first All Atlantic champion in Pac, and neither of them had a good run. And it's hard to see that, and then see that Punk kept getting all these, kept getting, the push and kept beating all these younger guys. And then Moxley, comes in and he becomes the second ever AEW champion, when the first ever AEW champion was a former WWE guy and Chris Jericho. And then Mox comes in and he wins it. And it's like, look, I'm not a fan. We know this. Look, you guys have been on this stream before. I've talked about this on Dave's stream before. I'm not a big Kenny Omega guy. I'm not a big Young Bucks guy, but I understand that they are the building blocks of this company, and that's what a lot of people want to see. And that's why it's really mind-boggling to me that there are so many people that are so pro CM Punk right now with all he's done and anti the Elite. I don't understand how you could side with Punk in this situation and want the Elite gone when they were the guys who built the company. If not for them, there wouldn't be anything. And I am tired, sick and fucking tired of hearing these morons run their mouth and say things like, no, well, if it wasn't for Tony Khan who had the money. If I'm sorry, I said AEW, if the Bucks and Cody and Kenny don't do All In, and there isn't, and they don't get the buy rates that they want, that's without anybody's fucking investment or money. That's with them doing it themselves. There is no viable property for Tony Khan to look at to see that he can invest in. So don't bullshit me and tell me that the Elite and, Kenny Omega and Adam Hangman Page and Cody, to a point, even though he's still not there, built this fucking company on their backs, and they should take a back seat. Tony Khan made them take a back seat. And Degenerate, you're right. That's what people are saying. It's the other way around. I look. All right. So yeah, when you talk about the dirt sheets, yes, it is the other way around. They are. They're talking about the Elite, and they're saying that that's the way it should be because it's true. Tony Khan invested in AEW knowing that he had Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, and that entire fan base was going to be there with them the entire time. Look, Punk may have done a lot of good for pay-per-view buy rates, but the ratings have largely been the same. Rampage got over 1 million on Punk's debut and then fell. I mean, free-falled to the point where they're getting 300,000 people watching Rampage now. And that was with Punk on the show. Not just Kenny, Kaido, they all are. And Degenerate, you bring up a great point. You bring up a very great point. That's absolutely true. Degenerate, you are right about the WWE thing with Japan. They always have had a cordial relationship. You're right. Kaido, I agree. If MJF doesn't win the world title, what are they doing over there? Look, I know Mox did the right thing and he stepped up. And Tony Khan, as the booker and as the owner of the company, did the right thing by putting the title back on Mox as a thank you for not taking a 6-week vacation when they needed him the most after the bottom of the company fell out. So, they did the right thing by giving this to Mox. Let him drop it to MJF. Let Mox go on vacation for a little bit. Their roster is humongous. They can deal without having Mox on the show for 6 weeks after he's been on the show every single week. He deserves the time off with his family, and AEW can take a breather from Mox for a little bit and push other guys up to the forefront and in that position. Both sides are not exactly all that needed in AEW. They're not really ratings pushes all that. I mean, who really is? Who's everybody tuning into? Is it just MJF? I don't think so. I think he's the majority. The majority of wrestling fans are tuning in to see MJF. I know I am. Every week that I put that TV on, I hope that MJF's going to be on there. But I also hope that a lot of other people are going to be on there that aren't. Like, where the hell is Miro? Where's Ricky Starks? I'm glad they're finally giving Hobbs something to do. And I'm glad they're finally giving Wardlow, who was the hottest guy in the company, they gave him a title and he cools down. And this isn't just an AEW problem. This is a pro wrestling problem now. Babyfaces are booked like shit. by every company. The only person who hasn't fallen into that trap yet has been Bianca Belair. Everybody, every babyface champion has fallen into this trap of winning a championship and getting less over by being champion than the chase. I understand the chase is what everybody wants to see, and you want to see the big moment of them winning. But you got to keep the momentum going, and they're just not doing what anybody. And Wardlow is, Wardlow is not the hottest guy in the company. Degenerate. The point is, what I'm saying is that he was, and then they put the title on him, and then he fell down. That's my point, is he lost all that momentum he had. People are going for MJF for a bit, but I think it's kind of soured down now. I mean, look, I think MJF is still the most over guy in the company. And true sense, you're 100% right. If not for guys like Jericho and Moxley to right the ship, they'd be in a really big, they'd be in a bigger shit heap than they are now. Kaito, yeah, I mean, Ricochet's a great example. He won the Intercontinental title and it was an afterthought. There's a lot of people that they've done this to. Nobody knows how to book a babyface champion anymore. And now look at most of the major champions that have been booked well. They've all been heels. Kenny Omega was when he was world champion. Everybody loves Kenny Omega. They turned him heel to be the world champion. Jericho had a great run. His first run was excellent. He was a heel. And look what they were doing. Look where they're going. Look, Moxley's more of a tweener. But look where they were going with Punk. They put the world title on him, and all of a sudden they were turning him heel again. It's like they just don't know how to book a babyface champion anymore. In my opinion, we really don't need the Elite suspension. Undisputed versus the Elite was also a terribly missed opportunity. Look, you can say what you want about Bobby Fish. Whatever. I don't care. And I know that the timing really, kind of fell off. But how do you set that angle up? Have them to be the guys that injure the Bucks and then just not pay it off. A lot of people are saying, well, they're just going to put the Kingdom back together and have Taven and Bennett go with Adam Cole now, and they're going to kind of feud with the Bucks and what's his name and Kenny Omega. I mean, cool, but that's like the Wish version of the Undisputed Era versus the Elite. I just think that was a bad mistake. They could have kept Bobby Fish around for a couple more months, let Kyle O'Reilly come back, and did that match, and then get rid of Bobby Fish after that. But they at least should have done it. I mean, sure, they can always bring him back in, but I think after this whole ordeal, I don't think it's going to happen. Let's see. In my opinion, Jericho's been kind of doing what he always did in WWE. She'll look, Degenerate. Here's the thing about Jericho. He's loyal to whoever employs him. I'm not going to say anything bad about somebody that's like that. He's going to consistently talk. Look, he's gotten annoying to me, and he's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. He's gotten annoying with me for a lot of the pro AEW stuff that he's doing, or a lot of things that he started to say, and then I didn't realize that it was just going to be a gimmick, and he was just trying to get himself over. But he's also in the process of trying to get the company over. But I have, me, guys, I have the biggest amount of respect for Jericho. I love how interesting the bloodline is becoming. But look at Drew right now. Does he even feel like anything special? Yeah, exactly. The bloodline is great, but Drew completely, fell off the map. Base up. Thank you for being here, man. I appreciate it. Good luck to you with all the stuff you got to finish up. So yeah, look. It's babyfaces have naturally always been hard to book, but for some reason, they ended up working out and doing it right in the 80s. Hogan stayed over forever. I mean, it's amazing that they were, WWE was able to do that. And then you go into the, pre-Attitude Era, Bret was over forever. Now they kept taking the belts on and off of Bret, but Bret was the mainstay at the top. Oh, 100% Degenerate. I respect the living shit out of him for it. But now we're in this position where no these baby faces aren't being booked well. True Sinister, I agree, but now we're getting the match with Lashley, so we're getting what we want. So I'm okay with it. And I'm glad that it's not for a belt, because it doesn't need to be. Lashley and Brock doesn't need to be for a title. So if they took the title off of Lashley, and then they made him the US champion to push him as like the centerpiece of Raw, because there wasn't a world champion. And they did a great job. And that's why a lot of people were talking about They don't defend the U.S. title on pay-per-views. That's because it was being defended on TV because he was being, looked at as the champion of the Raw brand for USA. Degenerate, yeah, you're not wrong there. But yeah, so I think Brock and Lashley doesn't need to be for a title. So I'm glad that they're giving us what we want and they're doing it in the right way. And they're giving us the non-title feuds that we want. As a matter of fact, as crazy as this sound, Ronda Rousey even said, "Mr. J Jr., how are you, man?" Ronda Rousey even said that she'd rather, like, if she's out of the title, if she's not champion, she'd rather have feuds outside the title picture because they want to bring that in because they do that with the men. So why can't they do it with the women? And she's 100% right. Mr. J Jr., my Halloween was actually amazing. For the first time in years, I took the day off. It was my 9-month-old niece's first Halloween. She dressed as Snow White. We went to go visit my mom with her. We took her around a little bit to go trick or treating, and she was adorable, and it was amazing. The best Halloween I've probably had, in I couldn't tell you how long. So Degenerate, they have Lashley, and Brock. MD, you're 100% right. Family is the most important thing in the world. So I wanted to kind of we're a half an hour in. It's going to be I have to wake up for work tomorrow, so I don't want to stay on super duper late. So True Sinister. All right, before we get to what I wanted to get into, we'll talk about that. Yes, straight up yes, but it's not just that. It's that and this is the thing. I had so many mixed feelings about this whole thing. We can go back to the beginning here, and I'll try to do it in a very quick way. I was a Ring of Honor fan. CM Punk and Bryan Danielson were my guys. CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Nigel McGuinness, loved them, and Naomichi Marufuji. But I know he was just in and out of Ring of Honor, but he always seemed to be on some of the bigger shows, and he was just insane. Those were my guys, and Samoa Joe. But I really got drawn into Punk because Punk to me is a lot of what MJF is right now. Punk was good in the ring and he was eye-catching and he was cool, but his promos brought you in. And when he came over to WWE and he got signed, if you could go back to my friend group back then, I annoyed the shit out of every one of them by telling them how much and how great CM Punk was going to be in WWE. And I was proven right time and time again. Every time Punk got an opportunity, he seized it, he capitalized, he did a great job, he got over. You can't deny how good CM Punk was. The pipe bomb happens. Now more people are taking notice, and now there are more CM Punk fans than ever. There are more believers than ever. Dave will tell you, CM Punk is the guy who got him back into pro wrestling after he had left pro wrestling for years. He hated the Triple H Reign of Terror during the Ruthless Aggression era, and he was looking for something to bring him back, and Punk was the guy that brought him back in. I loved CM Punk the performer. When Punk walked out, he kind of broke my heart because that was my guy. Since Ring of Honor, that was my guy. And he didn't, yeah, sure. He walked out on WWE and there were reasons why he did it. And he went on, the Cabana podcast and he explains all these reasons as to why he did it. But at that point, to me, it felt like he didn't walk out on WWE. It felt like he walked out on me. And I harbored a lot of resentment against him for a little while. And then I heard the Cabana podcast and I went, okay, so he wasn't being treated right. And he felt that he needed to be treated better. And he felt that he deserved more because he was that talented. But the more I started thinking about it in the 7 years that he was gone, and the more stories that came out about him after he left WWE, guys that he was friends with, like Jericho, who considered him a friend, calling him the day after he walks out and saying, "Hey man, hope all is well," and gets ghosted because Punk thought that Jericho had an agenda. It's not that Jericho had an agenda. Maybe he did. But Punk thought so he decided not to call his friend back because he was like, oh, he only wants me to get him on his fucking podcast. Why don't you talk to the guy and be like, hey, Chris, thanks for the support. I'm doing well. If Jericho then followed up with saying, do you want to come on the pod and talk about it? Fine, ghost him after that. But he didn't even give the guy the benefit of the doubt. Corey Graves asked him to go out to dinner in Chicago, and he blows him off too. And they were friends before WWE when they were in the Indies. So slowly but surely, you start hearing these stories about how Punk is treating the people who are close to him. And it soured me on Punk a lot at that point. But I never gave up hope with hoping that CM Punk was going to eventually come back to pro wrestling. I didn't think there was any of a chance that he would ever come back to WWE, but when AEW started, I was like, this is the perfect place for a guy like Punk. And if he's going to make a return, it's going to be here. And then he takes the Fox job, and he's on backstage, and he's wrestling adjacent again. And, the lawsuit happens with Colt. And I don't want to get into that because I don't know what happened there. But all these things are then just really not making me a fan of. I hate using wrestlers' real names, but I just wasn't a fan of Phil Brooks. I really love the CM Punk wrestler and the character. But the human being seemed to just be someone that I personally don't think I would want to associate myself with. Now, that's not to say that he wasn't great to some of his friends, to some of his other friends. I mean, he paid off Joey Mercury's house at one point. He's helped countless number of people. There are wrestlers that credit him with being a mentor and helping him. Even some guys in AEW talked about that before he left. But I really wanted. It's a degenerate. I kind of get what you're saying, but I'm going to get there in a second. But I kind of wanted to see the CM Punk character back. And when AEW, when it looked like they were in Chicago and it looked like it was going to happen, he was going to debut on Rampage. Guys, I sat in front of my television with the biggest smile on my face. I couldn't tell you how happy I was that CM Punk, the guy, my guy, finally after 7 years came back to pro wrestling. I was hyped. It's incredible how awesome that run started. I mean, Darby Allin, and then the MJF feud, it was so fun to see Punk back again. But old habits just seem to rear their head. And, he knew coming in that Cabana was hired. And then, WG Phil, what's up, man? He knew Cabana was there. And then all of a sudden, Punk shows up and then Cabana takes a back seat. Degenerate, don't worry. I'm getting there because I'm with you. And then, and look, you say Darby got buried, and we're going to get into the negatives in a couple of seconds. Punk then comes back and he starts doing these things there, and you start seeing the way that he's moving and shaking, and then all of a sudden I'm looking at it, and I'm sitting here thinking, wait, this guy came in to elevate the young guys. That's what he said. His first promo. I'm here for the young guys, but he's beating all of them. If you're here, look, I get it. Having competitive matches gets people over, but putting them over gets them over. And yes, Punk did put over Mox. And before that, he put over MJF. But all those young guys that he talked about, he beat them all. And now, I'm starting to get frustrated. After the MJF feud, I'm starting to get frustrated. Because it's not just, yes, did MJF beat him? Sure. But Punk made damn sure he got his win back. And Moxley beat him. Punk made damn sure he got his win back. And then I start seeing the backstage politician. And then the gears in my head start turning, and I'm like, nah, here we go again, man. He's not there for a year. They put the entire company on his back, put the world championship on him, costing Adam Page a good run that he could have had, even though he was booked like shit. But he cost Adam Page this great run so that he could be the guy in front and center. And then he cuts that promo in the middle of the ring and calls out Hangman and it's not scripted. And in my mind, that was the switch that flipped. And I started really looking into it. And I said, you know what? This run that everybody keeps calling like an all-timer and that was great and everything like that, was it really that good? Or were these nostalgia goggles that we all put on and we saw Punk come back and we convinced ourselves that this was such a good run because we wanted to believe in our heart of hearts that the real CM Punk was back, real pro wrestling was back, the CM Punk that we always wanted, the unedited, the gritty, the badass CM Punk was back. I think we were just convincing ourselves that that was the case. Because if you look back at Punk's run, it wasn't as good as everybody makes it out to be. His matches were good. I don't feel that he had any classics. I don't think that he has any matches that from his year start to his, from beginning to end that are match of the year candidates. If you just take from the day he wrestled his first AEW match and his last AEW match, and you take that, and put that right there, bam, and you take all the matches in between, I don't know if he's got even a top 5. And then to go out and to insult Adam Page because you got a little butthurt about a promo that he cut. Take it up, be a man, talk to him backstage, and talk to the boss. And why, again, was it okay that Eddie Kingston and MJF can mention things that Adam Page mentioned, but Adam Page wasn't allowed to? Was it because Punk knew that if he went after Kingston and MJF, that it wouldn't have meant as much? In Punk's mind, he got MJF to that next level. In my mind, bullshit. MJF was there already and didn't need that feud with Punk. Punk needed that feud with MJF to reinvent himself, to be, to go back to trying to be the guy that he used to be, more than MJF needed that feud with Punk. And let's not forget, if Punk in his mind is thinking that he's the one who to give credit to Adam Page for that, I'm sorry, to MJF for getting there, who inevitably won that feud? It wasn't MJF. No, it was CM Punk. Ultimately, Punk goes out the way he wanted to, as the heavyweight champion of the world. And in his mind, that's the way he's going to go out in AEW. I left at the top. I didn't lose that title. I was the guy. At what cost? At what cost? Because it hurt AEW as a whole. Because right now, if Punk didn't act like a fucking baby, we would have all of the Elite and CM Punk still there. I think he did need that run with Punk, I'll be honest with you. Oh, Degenerate, there were multiple. I mean, he had the big one with Jericho. He had one with Moxley. He's had a bunch of very memorable feuds in AEW before Punk. Did they benefit from them? Sure. And yes, he was. MJF was the guy who gave him his first loss. But Punk always got the win back. Punk never criticized Hunter and Vince the same way and never would with that permission. He would have probably gotten away with it too if they were not for the fight. More than likely. True Center, you're not wrong. More than likely. Not exactly that memorable. In fact, those feuds didn't really want and he didn't exactly benefit. I think he benefited. Look, the thing is that okay, did the Jericho one drag? Sure. Oh, and Wardlow too. Oh, and I think Wardlow was afterwards too. But he went right into that feud with Wardlow right afterwards too. MJF has had a lot of memorable feuds, in his time. He's always been in the mix. He's always had a good opponent at his, at a pay-per-view. He's always been, at that level. No, Punk got the win at the end of the feud. Wardlow slid in the ring, cost MJF the match, and that was the end of their feud. And Kaido, you're 100% right. And that's my point. If things would have went well, those would have been like main event guys. True answer, no, he never has. Not that I remember. So look, at the end of the day, MJF was supposed to be Punk for the AEW title and all the bullshit happened. Yeah, and look, that may have been the case, but it never happened. So I can't say that it was supposed to or it wasn't. Hi, baby. My girlfriend's here. She's so beautiful. I miss you. I know. I'm sorry. I actually, I don't know if you saw, but I was talking before and you texted me. I was like, oh, crap. I got to text her back, but I'm in the middle of doing this. And I felt bad. But I'll talk to you in a little bit. Look, can the argument be made? Can the argument be made that Punk did elevate MJF? Oh, yes, then you're 100% right. Punk did win the end of the feud. Yes. Did he elevate him? Yes. Or did he just keep him in the same position that he always was, and it was just the guy that was on the cusp that just eventually was going to break through and become heavyweight champion? If that Punk feud never happens, if you take that out, if you remove that period of time, let's say that period of time never existed, MJF isn't any less or more over than he was before. That's my point. At the end of the day, I hope Punk doesn't come back to WWE. I hope that he doesn't go back to AEW. I hope he's done. I think he's more of a headache than he's worth. And this is someone who is a huge fan of CM Punk, the wrestler. I just don't see the benefit anymore. And you can sit there and tell me that he did great pay-per-view numbers and stuff like that. But man, people from day one, for the first 2 years, the Elite busted their asses to get the AEW to where it is right now. If not for the Elite, they wouldn't be in this position. People can sit there and say, well, they fired their top draw, and then they're rubbing it in his face by having Colt Cabana come out. Having Colt Cabana come out and wrestle a match, on a show where he's contractually, contracted to wrestle, especially for Ring of Honor, is a spitting in the face of CM Punk. No, fans are going to look at it that way because these Punk marks are absolutely the worst. Fans are going to look at it that way. At the end of the day, Cabana was a great choice to be a Jericho's opponent. He's just as ROH as anybody else. Him and Punk got there at the exact same time. Their debut match was against each other, and Cabana lasted longer in Ring of Honor than Punk ever did. Perfect guy to have face Jericho. If you want to read into it as they're kicking Punk when he's down, maybe Punk shouldn't have, chose a press conference to air his dirty laundry out, and maybe he should have did that in the, behind the scenes. Personally, I think he should have never actually won the title. Look, Degenerate, you're 100% right. I think so too. The Jericho thing is all about ROH. Guys. Well, no, true things are a lot of people just said that it was a slap in Punk's face because Cabana was there. And Degenerate, look, I think I get what you're saying, but I don't ever want to see him back at WWE either because it's what if he doesn't main event that year's WrestleMania? I have a feeling that if he doesn't come in and be the guy who beats Roman, he's not going to be happy. Because, and I've said this before. All right, so I'm not going to get to my original thing. Maybe I'll do my own video and I'll edit it and I'll do it myself another day. Oh, Degenerate, I'm not taking his real life seriously. I'm talking about his real life as in terms of being a backstage politician as a wrestler. I can give a shit less what he does outside of the realm of pro wrestling. I don't care. It's the same thing with everybody. I don't care. True, and Sinister, people do believe that because there are a lot of people who are very big CM Punk fans that just want to defend him no matter what. I get it. You like the guy, and that's fine. But I'm not going to let any one person put an entire company, put himself in front of it before an entire company. And here's my big thing. We got 5 minutes left. I want to wrap this up at 11. But the thing is, no offense, Albert, the Elite to a fault is a great value click. They're not squeaky clean either. Degenerate, I'm not saying that they're not partial to blame because at part they are. But when you have major people major people in the wrestling media, and for lack of a better word, the dirt sheets, sitting there and saying Punk is yelling about the fact that they're leaking shit to the dirt sheets, and the dirt sheets are sitting there and telling everyone, I'm not revealing my source, but none of this came from the elite. What position do they have to lie? Do they want to just piss off CM Punk? Why would they want to piss off Punk? Punk and Meltzer always had a good relationship. I'm sure that Sean Ross Sapp doesn't want to burn his bridges with a guy like CM Punk. So why would they lie about that? So here's the thing. I don't give a fuck about the dirt sheets either. I really don't give a fuck about them. And CM Punk shouldn't give a fuck about them either. Who cares what they're printing about what you're saying? Half the shit that comes out of Meltzer's mouth is fucking wrong anyway. Why are you taking that so seriously? Oh my God, they're saying that I'm the person who held Colt Cabana down in AEW. Why do you give a shit? I certainly don't. So when you let that bleed into what you're doing on screen, you're fucking everything up. And my major point is 10 years ago, CM Punk was the guy that was in the center of the ring telling all the older guys, hey, your time is up. This is my time. You put the belt on me, and I will make this company go to heights that you've never seen before. Your old, antiquated mindsets are wrong. I'm right. I know better than all of you. Then he gets to AEW, and he becomes the old guy that thinks that he knows better than all the younger guys. Harry Flynn, what's up, man? I feel so bad that we're about to wrap up and you just got here. But what I'm saying is maybe they didn't have a great relationship, but Meltzer's not going to try to burn that bridge on his end with Punk because Meltzer needs Punk more than Punk needs Meltzer. Meltzer, if not for pro wrestling, these guys wouldn't have a job. So burning any bridges with any wrestler is a bad thing for these dirt sheet reporters because it's less dirt that they're ever going to get up because they know that they're not going to get these people to talk to them. But getting back to my point, CM Punk comes into AEW, he's the old guy, and he's telling all these young guys what to do, and they're looking at him and going, that's not the way we do things anymore. He literally became the guy that he hated. He hated Triple H. He hated that he was always at the top of the card. He hated that, that they were relying on guys like Triple H and Cena and Rock coming back. That's what he hated. He hated seeing those guys take True Sinners, you too, buddy. He hated seeing those guys take the spots of these younger guys that were trying to come up. And here comes Punk doing the exact same thing. He didn't say it himself, but you're telling me that his actions don't prove it? Tell me where his actions don't prove it. He needed to be the guy. Always. That's what he wanted. He wanted to be the revolution, the institution of change in pro wrestling in WWE. He wanted to take apart the old school mentality. He wanted to put in the mentality that the guys that started coming up in Ring of Honor, on the Indies, in the the IWA, Mid-South, all that other kind of stuff. That's what he wanted to see. I'm saying that the dude actually did kind of see the other side. He even said that I would like to be a part-timer like Brock in an interview. And sure, of course he does, because it benefits him, degenerate. But he criticized WWE for doing the exact same thing with Brock. Everybody should check out Harry's video. But he criticized WWE for doing that same thing. But him coming in on a part-time schedule benefits him because it doesn't put him on the road all the time and it doesn't put the wear and tear on his body. So that's better. So that's when he wasn't. That's my point. When Punk was a full-time wrestler, he criticized people being part-time. When he was retired, all of a sudden it was, hey, I'd probably like that schedule. Everything centers around him. That's always been his way. That's my personal opinion. All right. None of this is fact. I don't know CM Punk from Adam. I'm just a guy who was a fan of his work in the ring. But I'm not going to excuse his actions towards a company that gave him everything. And look, even still, you really want to bitch about the WWE run? 434 days. In an era where Cena had the belt for 380. And then everybody else before that, a couple of 100 days each. In an era where we didn't get long title reigns, CM Punk reigned atop the WWE for 434 days. If you think that he didn't get his just due in that company, you're lying to yourselves too. And I don't want to hear the excuses that all the Punk fans make. Well, he wasn't in the main event, and certain things weren't centered around. He was the heavyweight champion of the world. That is the biggest spot you can be in. I don't care if that belt, what happens. That belt is the number one belt in the company. It was treated as such the entire time. Sure, degenerate. I'm okay with that. Look, I don't like a lot of the things that he said, Harry, I'm 100%. I think that Roman will too. But look, to get off this whole thing, because I really don't want to make this whole thing about Punk. Punk has been a circus his entire career. Everywhere he's gone, he's been an issue. It was one of the, remember, before he was in WWE, he was in TNA for a little bit. And apparently, they didn't they didn't keep calling him because he was a handful there too. I don't know if that's true or not. That's what I've heard. But it just seems like he's a handful everywhere he goes. At the end of the day, I don't know if it's worth it. That's just me. I think he should be happy for his run, even though I do believe just like look, here's the thing. Vince is the guy who makes the calls. He can't sabotage anybody. He's the guy who makes the calls. You can't be sabotaged by the guy who's the booker. He's the one who makes the final call on all the decisions. If he doesn't want to see you in that position, he's just not going to put you in that position. It's not sabotage. It's just what he wants. It's the same thing as, look, we can sit there and say, look, I'm not a big Orange Cassidy guy. I don't dislike him. I don't love him. I never got him initially. Now that I kind of get him, it's not my personal thing. But a lot of people like him. So I'm okay with him being the All-Atlantic champion. Tony Khan certainly seems to think that that's a good idea because he put the belt on him. You're not going to get in that position unless you have enough support from the right people in the right places. If WWE didn't want to put him in that spot, they wouldn't have put him in that spot. And they did put him in that spot for 434 days. It is what it is. I heard that story too, degenerate. And Harry, with Jarrett back, it does harken back to that, to like 2017 TNA. There are a lot of guys that were in that company that are in AEW right now. It is kind of crazy. Of course he did, Harry. He absolutely did. But I think a lot of people got mad about the fact that, Survivor Series rolled around and then everybody was like, oh, well, Punk's not the main event. It's Rock. And The Rock wrestled his first match in forever at that point. It was the biggest thing ever. And True Sinister, you're 100% right. That is exactly what the company's doing. They are absolutely 100% investing in you if they put a title on you. Degenerate, you can't call something being sabotaging. What are they're making the decisions. They can't sabotage it. They're just going to say, okay, we're just not going to do that anymore. It's not sabotage. Not pushing them isn't sabotaging them. It's just not pushing them. Look, there have been plenty of people who've gotten themselves over that have, kind of gotten hurt because WWE didn't capitalize. I mean, Rusev and Zack Ryder are the two that I think are the biggest ones. Do I agree that WWE should have done better? Absolutely. Do I think it was sabotage? No, they didn't have plans for them. They didn't think that was going to get them over. And it ended up doing it. And sometimes they course correct. Like you said, Bryan, but eventually, yes, did Bryan get over? Sure. And eventually, yes, the Yes Movement got him over so well that they got him to a point where then Daniel Bryan was put into a main event spot. Jericho, yeah, from 2001 to 2002. Okay, I get what you're saying there. I'm kind of with you. I'm a big Jericho guy. Could they have pulled the trigger on him earlier? Sure. They got to it eventually. I mean, there are guys that they should have capitalized on more and could have gotten over more during that time. But that happens everywhere. Some people just catch fire, but you can't change all of your plans sometimes when people catch fire. I mean, at one point the Hurricane was like the number 3 merchandise seller, like post at it, like Ruthless Aggression era, in between like Attitude and Ruthless Aggression era. Like, it's kind of crazy that, that's the case, but we're going to put a world title on him? No, because you couldn't, and it's the same thing. Everybody, Rusev Day got over, but was there a spot to put Rusev in to continue that success? Or was it just going to burn out eventually anyway? Look, I don't know what the answer is, but the WWE obviously didn't feel that was going to be something that they wanted to do. It is what it is. It's wrestling. There's a finite amount of spots and TV and spots for TV time for wrestlers, no matter what. And sometimes they just don't get it. Well, I mean, if that's the case, then Degenerate, I think they kind of answers the question of what I've been talking about, that he's, that seemingly there's always some sort of an issue, right? And True Sinister Harry, you guys are listing off a lot of the stuff that Punk did during WWE, and look, I'm with you guys. He did a lot, and a lot of people look back on that and they're like, oh, they could have done so much more, maybe, but at that time, that's not what they wanted, and they gave us what we wanted. And look, at the end of the day, if Punk stays, we may never have gotten the Yes Movement and Daniel Bryan winning the main at the main event of WrestleMania 30. There's a chance we don't see it. I was at 29. He was in a friggin' tag match with Kane. A year later, he's main event in WrestleMania. Everything happens for a reason. At the end of the day, I think that Punk coming back was a big thing for pro wrestling. I think it was good. I think he did some good. I think people kind of got tired. And then, they kind of started seeing his ways a little bit more, and people started picking up on it. And then they were like, you know what? Not for me anymore. And a lot of people are saying they don't want to see him back in WWE. There's a reason for that. All right, guys. It's been an hour and 7 minutes. My voice is hurting. I'm getting tired. And I'm kind of running out of steam here. I got to get up for work tomorrow. And my laptop's dying. So we're in a bunch of very bad states right now for me to continue this. So I'm going to cut it off here. Thank you guys for being here. I'm probably going to do a video pretty soon about these other things that I wanted to talk about. AEW fans and they're moving of the goalposts and, things, their justifications for criticizing certain shows and stuff like that. So if that's something you guys are going to be interested in, let me know. And maybe I'll do my best to get that for you. Hey, MD, listen, if you guys can get me more subscribers and I can do this full time, I would love you forever, because I would love to do this forever. I mean, I would love to. Look, if you can get me on, this can parlay me into doing this and doing things like, having like a wrestling show on like a radio show and even like a football show too. That's the dream. If that ever happens, that would be great. If not, I'm grateful for what I have. I'm grateful for you guys. I'm really happy for you guys being here. And I'm really, really excited that, all of you guys came in. 10 likes. You guys are absolutely fantastic. Harry, yes, if I start getting, like I told you, I'm starting to get, I have this play coming up, so it's going to be hard for me to continue to start, to do this stuff. I want to try to do this once a week, guys. I really do. It's really difficult because, I have rehearsal tomorrow night. The play is November 9th, 18th, 19th, and 20th, or 19th, 20th, and 21st. I think it's 18th, 19th, and 20th. It's that weekend in November. So I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff. And then after that, maybe we can start talking about doing a little bit more. And maybe I can start doing a little bit more. But I have 3 shows already right now that are pending that I just have to sit down and edit. So hopefully I'll get those done and be able to get those out to you. But in the meantime, guys, thank you so much always for your continued support, for being here. And as always, you guys are the best. I'll see you guys soon. Take care.